Hello and welcome to another edition of the Moving Iron Podcast. This podcast is proudly provided by Axon, helping dealers move more iron for almost 100 years. Find out more at axontire.com. Axon was started almost 100 years ago out of a passion for keeping agriculture moving. It's that same passion that drives them today. With a vision for a better experience for both farmer and dealer, they set out to create a better way to move more iron. When you partner with Axon, you get immediate access to a full range of products and solutions designed to meet the complex needs of today's grower. Axon carries all major brands and sizes of tires, wheels, and tracks. From custom colors and sizes to fully customized wheels, you can have the solution for virtually any problem today's farmer is trying to solve. To find more or become an Axon dealer, please visit axontire.com.
Moving iron in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving iron, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast Markets with Shawn Hackett. This edition of the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by Axon Tire, helping dealers move more iron for the past 100 years. For more information, go to axontire.com. Also, TractorZoom delivering insights. If you're looking for a great place to see what's going on in the auction marketplace, make sure you check out TractorZoom's Iron Comps. They have 500 independent auction companies that report daily as to what is going on in the auction market. If you feel like you want to use that product, use Moving Iron at checkout and get yourself a discount. And also Arrow, a simple, powerful CRM for salespeople to sell more stuff. Shawn Hackett's here with me again, and he's on once a week. I mean, actually twice a week, but this week he's on once a week because he thought he had to go out and give a bunch of speeches about stuff. But he's on here to talk about what's going on in the market. And Shawn, you're just getting off of a fresh speaking tour here. And what were kind of some of the settlements you came across with the folks that you were talking to?
I still think there's a lot of confusion because the weather's been so unusual.
Yeah.
You know, the cool, wet weather in Texas hurting the cotton crop, and the blisteringly hot, dry weather in the northern plains burning up, the grain crops, and everyone's just confused. When are we going to go back to normal? I kept hearing, when are we going to just get back to our normal weather? And I think everybody's just trying to figure out why has this weather been so weird for the last few years? And of course, as you know, Casey, that's kind of what we talk about at these presentations, is what we think is going on with weather, these bigger cycles going on, and why this weather volatility and this unusual weather is likely to not only continue but probably accelerate in its aberration. So we tried to shed some light on that, and I think at least it gave them some idea that maybe there's a reason behind all this madness, and maybe they can start preparing a little differently for it. So
yeah. There's I think getting what is the new normal, I guess, is what we're looking at now. So
it's a new normal.
Yeah, that's a crazy time we live in right now. Well, let's jump over and talk about a few things happening in the markets right now. So it looks like if you take a look at corn and soybeans over the last couple of days, since last week, been a lot of buying has been happening. We've been seeing some steady increases in the price over the last 3 or 4 days. I guess, what's your reaction to that? Is it kind of one of those deals where corn just got low enough and now people are jumping?
Well, we slaughtered the markets last Thursday and Friday. I mean, just slaughtered it. So you typically will have a 2 to 3 day reaction, bounce from that. I mean, we just and remember, last year, still in the minds of the market, the buyers missed the low, and they don't want to miss the low this year. So they're more antsy to want to buy. A lot of farmers sold way too early last year, as you know,
right,
and they don't want to sell too early this year. So that psychology, which was not here last year. Last year was, we've been in a 10-year bear market. There's no hope. There's no future. Sell. The buyer says, why do I have to buy? I'll just wait because it's going to keep going lower. That psychology means every time there's a big break, we're getting this counter reaction in the market. So I don't think it's a change in the trend. I still believe our trend is heading lower into the first half, into mid-September. And probably this bounce has pretty much run its course. And then we're going to roll over into some kind of a retest. Now, maybe we just retest. Maybe we make new lows. We'll have to find out. But I do think there'll be another shot down that will test whether the market is done going down. Was last week's the harvest lower? Do we have to do one more shutdown. Our general belief is we have to do one more shutdown to put the harvest lows in. That's what we think is going to happen. So if a farmer's out there, if a producer's out there and he says, look, I didn't quite finish up the sales before we had last week's break, get it done now. I'd finish up those sales that you need to make and then store the rest for next year. Because as you know, we're pretty wildly bullish the grain markets in the spring, summer of next year. But you got to sell something. You got to pay your bills. Just make sure you sell enough so you don't have to sell at a time you don't really want to.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Okay. So the other thing that we've talked about here quite a bit of late is the cotton market. And if you take a look what's going on in the cotton market, we had some pretty good prices this week. I saw it up above 96. I think maybe Tuesday I saw it above 96, which I hadn't seen it above 96 in a really long time, since about 2012. I think was about the last time I saw cotton about at that high. I guess as you take a look at the cotton market, we're still kind of trudging through that phase here where hurricane season is getting ready to start, and like you've talked about on the podcast before, that we're in that time frame where we're about 2 to 3 weeks behind schedule because of the cool, wet temperatures that we've had in the South, where cotton's primarily grown, especially in Texas. A lot of wet conditions in Texas. I guess to take a look at the cotton market, you talked about it last week that you thought 95 was just kind of the start, and we could go up from there, and we could see maybe up to $1. And that, do you think we're still on that path to get there?
Yeah, it looks like this system that's sitting out there now that's coming in, it's going to come into the Gulf somewhere. We don't know quite sure exactly where. It could range anywhere from Texas to the middle of the deep South, but it looks like it's going to hit cotton country, the way it looks to us. So, that could be what we've been talking about. You get that big storm that comes in and just buries the market with moisture and wind. And maybe that's what takes this market to $1 or shoots beyond $1. We still feel we have to trade that before we can put the top into this market. And so, we'll see how the weather models and how this storm steers. But this looks like the first really legitimate Gulf storm that could impact that, the cotton areas there of the deep South into Texas. And so, be on the lookout for that. And that, if that happens and we get one of those big spike trades on weather, cotton producers would be looking to sell that. That's a outstanding time to sell something, is on a temporary, weather euphoria before you come down on the hangover, as typically happens. So the next couple of weeks could be pretty wild in the cotton market. So time to be very much watchful if you're having interest in that market right now.
Yep. Okay. So let's take a look at sugar. Early dig for sugar beets is going to start here in my area next week. Late August, early September. So we're going to start seeing those things start to pop up. Sugar price has continued to climb as we get closer to this harvest time frame. You talked about last week, Thailand and India are going to play a big factor into that as their harvests come online, and those different factors that play in there. So let's talk about the sugar market, what you see there.
Yeah, I kind of feel we're starting to run out of gas here. We continue to feel that if whatever upside is left, for the sugar market, it's going to happen in September. Right now, the only thing that we can see that would drive this market higher is unfavorable weather in Brazil. And because right now, this September timeframe into October is pretty important to set the sugar crop on a good track for better production on the next cutting. Of course, the drought continues. There's a lot of debate whether we're going to get some rains here at the end of the month or whether the drought's just going to continue. So it looks to us like September is going to be a pretty dry month. If there are any rains, it looks like it's going to be pretty mild, modest. So that would say to us that we probably have one more push here on, oh my gosh, it's dry in September, this drought's not going away kind of a thing. And then we think October, we're going to get some pretty big rains that will kind of alleviate those fears. So this 20 cents, 22 cents area on the October sugar contract looks like a really good polarizing magnet for a top. And, and sugar beet producers ought to be looking at, that area to make some sales. We think it's good. Anything is possible. We just don't see the drought in Brazil allowing for much more than a little bit more upside from here.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of Brazil, as you bounce down and take a look at the the devastating freezes they've had down there and what that's done to the coffee market. My cup of coffee hasn't gotten more expensive yet, but I feel like it's on its way.
It's always a delayed reaction. I mean, you have a shortage, but it takes time for that to actually show up. But we would be looking for prices to really start showing up higher. At your coffee shops or at the supermarket in the fourth quarter, especially as you move into the new year. Remember, we're expecting a really, really cold winter, and cold winter means you drink more coffee. There's coffee demand, several million more bags in a cold year versus not. At a time we don't really have any more to give. Interestingly enough, beyond the devastating weather, and of course what we just talked about with sugar is the same thing for coffee. Coffee really wants this drought to end so that it can rehabilitate its all the stress and the frost and all that sort of thing. But in Vietnam, who's a big Robusta coffee producer, they're second largest producer of coffee in the world, because of the virus proliferation there, they've shut the country down. Oh. And the shipments have just stopped. They've slowed dramatically out of the country. And so we've seen the Robusta coffee price, which trades in London, go parabolic here the last 2 or 3 days. And of course, it's all connected. If you can't get enough Robusta, then you go find low quality Arabica. I mean, coffee's coffee. You're going to try to find it somewhere. So just interesting how not only are we dealing with this weather stuff, but we still have this virus thing popping up where, lockdowns here and the Chinese ports that we talked about last week, right, not operating normally. It's just a crazy situation. Yeah. By the bottom line is, at the end of the day, what it means is having physical, whether you're a coffee roaster, having physical in your warehouse versus, at a warehouse at origin is going to be really, really important going forward. And that's going to keep the demand higher than normal, because everyone's going to want to keep getting that physical in as quickly as they can, because they're not going to know, well, maybe I won't be able to get it. Maybe the delivery I'm supposed to get is delayed by 3 months, and that doesn't work when I have orders to fill. It's just a mess. It's a real mess, but it impacts the price a lot. Well,
that's to that point. I mean, we're still facing that. You have on an order, and doesn't matter what it is, if it's a tractor or a combine or coffee or whatever, you're not for sure when you're going to get it. I mean, even Amazon, that doesn't do the 2-day delivery thing anymore. It's still Prime, and you're still going to get it. We just don't know for sure what day.
Well, and think of and to your point, Casey, think of the winter that we're expecting to have here, Northern Hemisphere.
Right.
Really, really cold temperatures, historic snowfall in a lot of areas. Obviously, with the shift in our power generation, we already saw how we can have very easily have rolling blackouts at times. Yeah, Europe is no different. I mean, they're in the same position. So if we're already struggling, as you just correctly stated, with getting things shipped and delays and not getting people to work and ports, and it doesn't look like this is going to get any better with a really, really bad winter. I mean, it looks like it's going to get a lot worse. So to me, I'm sitting here as a risk manager at the coffee trading house of Starbucks, or somebody who's a big procurer of supplies, and I'm looking at all that's going on. My job is to get as much in physical as I can, so that if I do have a disruption in supply, if there is a delay, I have some buffer that I can get through that period without having to tell the person I'm supposed to ship coffee to, you know what, I can't give it to you right now. We're going to have to hold off. So it's a messy situation. And so I would really, really, one of the highest recommendation I can make to anyone out there in the ag business, whether it's the buyer or the seller, is have physical on hand as much as you can right now. This is not a time to play games with just-in-time inventory.
Yeah, that just-in-time thing kind of turned from just-in-time to we'll get it to you when we can delivery.
just in whenever, just in some time.
Just eventually we're going to get it to you.
Eventually.
Yep. All right, let's jump over and talk about what's going on in the beef complex. The beef complex has had some very strong runs over the last, and nothing too crazy, but it's just been steady increment growth, and over the last couple of days, you've seen some softening in that market. talk about the beef price. We've talked about beef on here quite a bit, and that this is going to be one of those dips in the market where cattle feeders are going to be looking to buy some feed possibly at a lower price, and obviously that price is down dramatically from what it's been. But I guess as you take a look what's going on with the beef complex, what's your thoughts there, and what do you see happening for the rest of the week?
Well, I mean, we've been having this target on. I'm trying to remember now. December contract, I think of upper 130s to 140. As a target for kind of a near term top in the market on holiday demand, on some of the thinning down of the animals that we had on the herd liquidation, and we hit that. We've reached that level, and then we're backing off a little bit. So I kind of think this is a place. As you know, Casey, we're a little worried about the global economy, the U.S. economy here in the fourth quarter. There's a lot of things with the Delta virus, with monetary policy, growth of money printing shrinking, that we're just a little worried it could be kind of a pullback in demand here based upon those factors. And of course, beef demand would be impacted by that. So we just think this is as you know, we're wildly bullish the cattle price in the spring, summer, and fall of next year because of the winter and other reasons. But we do think that this is probably a good time to be cash selling cattle right now. As you're a cattle producer for the fourth quarter, there's some of the better price we've seen in a while, and we don't think there's a whole lot more upside from here, at least into the fall. After that, we would be a big buyer again. So,
okay, all right, jump over and take a look at what's going on pork complex. The hog price has been sliding for a while, and there's idea that we're heading into fall where pork demand typically does go down, and they're worried about supply the way it is. I guess what are your thoughts there? And is some of this African swine fever, as it creeps ever so closer to the continental United States, is some of that playing into what we see happening here?
Well, I mean, I forget when exactly we talked about this, but I'm a hog producer, and I still have. I mean, obviously the prices are down a bit from where they were, but they're still very good. They're still making money, and we have this economic concern here in the fourth quarter. We have this ASF problem in China. We have the pork price and the hog price in China collapsing. We have the exports to China collapsing. And we have the potential that one day we're going to wake up and we're going to hear a news story that ASF was found somewhere in the United States and all exports are halted for a while. I mean, I just don't think I want to be in the business of taking that kind of risk as a producer. I just think, I want to have that cash price locked in here. You can always, do something different on paper later if you want, if it looks like the coast is clear. But these prices, Casey, I just think the risks are too high to the downside to mess around, and you just need to lock that price in at least through the fourth quarter, maybe even to the first quarter. We're not very constructive of the hog market here at all. We continue to be. It's one of the few markets that we really have a pretty strong bearish view of. Our smart money algorithm that we follow continues to give very bearish signals to this market. Like I said, we've had a little bit of a bounce. And every market bounces. So there's a market you want to sell every bounce for right now. That's we'd be in the business of cash selling every bounce.
Okay. That is a scary time because, like you said, it's not a matter of when it'll get here. It's not a matter of if, but when it gets here. It's just so it's creeping closer, I guess.
Well, everyone else has pretty much got it, and so we're going to get it too. And I don't want to be around when it's limit down, and you have and you didn't get your cash sold for the next 6 months. You just don't want to be a producer in that position. You want to be a producer who says, you know what, I've sold my next 6 months of pork supply. I care, but I really don't care. I can weather the storm, and we'll eventually figure it out, and the market will say, okay, we got to, and then we'll turn back up again. But I just don't want to be in a position at these prices of letting that gift horse get away.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Well, good stuff as usual, Shawn. Folks want to reach out to you and get more information about what Hackett Financial can do for them. What's the best way to do that?
The website is Hackett, HACKETT, advisors.com. As you know, Casey, we have interviews with you and others and sample reports and white papers and things that help discuss a little more about what we do to see if our way of looking at things in ag markets could be of value to your listeners.
Absolutely. Make sure you go check that out, folks. There's tons of good information there. So I'm Casey Seaman with Moving Iron Podcast. Make sure you check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's where you're going to find the latest editions of the Moving Iron Podcast. Also go to MovingIronLLC.com for the entire library of Moving Iron podcasts as well as Moving Iron blogs. Really, it's a crazy time right now, whether it's politically or in the markets or what's going on. So make sure you reach out to Shawn, ask him what's going on, look at what he has to offer, take a look at some of those sample reports out there, because there's really never been a more important time than what we see right now to make sure, especially what we're headed into for the winter and those kind of things. If you have not listened to what Shawn has to say about these grand solar minimums and what we see happening there, I would highly recommend that you do that. Shawn's going to be at the Moving Iron Summit. He's going to be talking about this very topic, and every time he talks about it, there's still that part of me that's like, what is this guy talking about? But at the same time, if you listen to what he says and then go back and take a look at what's going on, there's some crazy things happening with our weather, and he's right. So, Shawn, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that speech, and kind of what you did, the last couple of days here when you were down talking to some cotton producers and some dairy producers. These weather events that we're seeing take place are happening, and I mean, I guess the best way to put it is we just got to be on top of our game and prepare for that rainy day.
Well, they are happening. And what we try to do in our presentations that we've been doing this year and that we'll do with you, is go over the signposts, the evidentiary signposts of how do we know it's happening, and continue to look for a new signpost that's continuing to happen. I mean, all this is evidentiary. I mean, there's evidence behind everything we talk about. There's data behind everything we talk about. There's thousands of years of research to go about everything we talk about. And there's current news that actually confirms what we're talking about. So it's as foreign as the subject matter is to many, because they haven't heard that concept before. It's everything can be researched, everything can be verified, everything can be looked at. It's not just trust Shawn. I mean, everything. I didn't come up with all this stuff. All I did was take really smart people's research over my lifetime and pull out all these cycles and put it in a usable tool so that everybody doesn't have to go out and look at those thousands and thousands of papers to try to come up with how's all this working together. And I'm excited about it because we've been making some really good recommendations to our customers and to those who've been listening to your program. And as you said correctly, this is not a time to get it wrong, Casey. This is a time that you really have to be really clear about tactically what you need to do, because this period of time could be extremely devastating or it could be extremely lucrative because the weather volatility, the price volatility is going to be off the rails. And if you understand what's going on, it could be really, really an exciting time versus what we were dealing with 4 or 5 years ago when a 5-cent move in corn was really a big day. What are you going to do? Exactly. There's nothing to do. You're done. It's like a slow bleed. You're going to die. It's going to take 20 days before you bleed to death. That's what it was before. Now you have an opportunity to escape, so.
Yep. So take full advantage of what Shawn has on his website. If you want more information, reach out to Shawn. Shawn, give your website one more time.
It's Hackett, HACKETT, advisors.com. And if any of you listening to the show want me to come speak for you, if you know someone that has a conference going on, I mean, there's not a better time to be talking about this kind of information right here, given where we are in proximity to this historical winter. We'd be glad to see if we could set something up and go out to your group and also speak with you as well. So
absolutely. Take full advantage of that, guys. All right. With that, I am Casey Seymour, Shawn Hackett. Let's go with some iron, folks. Out.
You want to have a meaningful competitive advantage to help sell more equipment. Whether you represent the sales, parts, or management department of an implement dealership, there's a surprising amount of complexity when it comes to tire, wheel, and track technology. Let Axon worry about that so you can get back to supporting your customers. Axon has leveraged years of experience to create a streamlined process that gives you a proven path to help today's grower and sell more equipment. The roots of their organization go back almost 100 years to the invention of the rubber tractor tire. Supporting agriculture is the number one driver of Axon, from product development through sales and service. To find more or become an Axon dealer, head over to axontire.com.
Moving higher in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving higher. Moving higher in the 21st century.